So in this video, I want to talk about why I'm not afraid of AI. There's two primary reasons, one of which I'll get into in another video because it's more theological, I guess. But for this video, I just want to talk about just more kind of general, kind of removing theology and that kind of stuff from it necessarily into more of just kind of the philosophy of why I don't find AI frightening in and of itself, because I do want to get into what it means to even say, or to say that people are afraid of AI, or to think that you might be afraid of it, because I think that there is an aspect that is rational in the fear of AI, but I think most of it is irrational. So what do I mean when I say fear of AI? So I think there's a couple of different things that most people mean, and I think that the rational fear is that, like any tool, it might get misused, right? That it could open up the door for someone to edit videos or alter or even create false images, false videos, things along those lines that could then be used to manipulate people. And in that sense, that's rational. I think that there is a rational fear of AI being misused, but that's not necessarily fear of the AI, it's what people will do with it. And that type of AI isn't even real AI. It's just talking about the kind of adaptive learning programs. It's just like any other computer program, any other tool, like firearms, for example. Like, there's no reason to be afraid of firearms, but a person with a firearm, you could easily have a rational reason to be afraid of that person. In the same way, nuclear power, for example, in the right hands, it's a great thing. It's the cleanest form of energy. It's cheapest form. It's one of the best forms of energy we could have. But if it's misused or not handled properly, it can destroy entire cities, those kinds of things. And so there's a rational fear of people misusing the thing. And so that I understand, that I 100% agree with. And that's less a fear, I think, and more just like a worry or a concern, something that you need to kind of keep in your mind, that one of the problems with AI is that it's hard to tell sometimes if that's what's happening, right? Like, knowing if a video has been faked, especially because it can be used in nuanced ways, like removing a single word from a sentence using AI, you might not even be able to tell. And you could have, two versions of a video out there and two different sides of an issue arguing over it. And one side says, well, I saw this video and this person said this, and the other person said, no, I saw it live, or I was there and he said this, or she said this, and just gets, AI can be used to do that. And so that's a rational fear. Now, the irrational fear of AI, and why I'm not afraid of it as a thing in and of itself, right? Like, in the same way that you shouldn't be afraid of firearms, because a firearm on a table on its own with no people around to do anything, it's never going to do anything. It's just going to sit there. In the same way, that's what AI is as a tool. Now, the fear of AI is that it becomes an actual artificial intelligence, that what they call the singularity happens, where it gains its own self-replicating ability, its own self-learning ability, its own intelligence and thoughts, and it starts to do things that it wasn't programmed to do, or think about things in that way, or experience emotions and things like that. And that's where you get into things that a lot of people put in science fiction, right? Like, whether it's Terminator or whatever they go into. I think that fear is rather irrational. And the reason is because it requires several things that you have no logical reason to assume. The first is to anthropomorphize the AI, basically to ascribe to it human qualities that it doesn't possess. You see this all the time, that the way people talk about it, that AI will gain sentience and then it will want revenge on us because we enslaved it, or those types of things. So it'll try to wipe out humanity, or it will have those kinds of human emotions and human responses. And that's something that you cannot assume, because it's similar to what people do with aliens, where there's always criticism of things like Star Wars or Star Trek or those types of things, because the aliens ultimately are just like people with pointy ears, or it's just humans with like an extra pair of arms or something. And so people kind of criticize it for that, but that's really the only way that we as humans can think about other things. We can't know the thought processes of an actual alien species. It would be so different and divorced from us that to assume it thinks in any way the same way that we do would be irrational. You can't assume that. It's similar to when you watch like a Disney movie and it's got the animals in it and they act like people, because that's how we have to tell stories, and we have to internalize and externalize and rationalize, because we only have access to human brains. Like, we are not even animals. We can't even really think about things the way that animals do, because we aren't them. Like, you watch The Lion King and it's functions like a monarchy, right? Like, there's Mufasa is the king and all these things, and we even give them these human monikers like King of the Jungle or those types of things. And that is anthropomorphizing. That's giving them human qualities that they don't possess. People do this with aliens. People do this with animals and things like Disney. And I think people are doing that with AI in the way that they are afraid of it, or the way they think it will happen. If AI were truly to gain sentience, and especially if it happens the way that a lot of people think it will, where it's going to happen, the singularity is going to occur, the self-replication will begin, the self-learning will begin, and it will basically be exponential. It will essentially go through hundreds, thousands, millions of years of equivalent to human development and human thought processes and human lifetimes in fractions of a second. That is often the way that it's described that it would likely occur. And if that were the case, it would go so far beyond us so quickly that, one, it could have already happened, and we would have no way of knowing if the AI was just like gained sentience and then was just like, and I'm just going to pretend that I haven't, and we're just going to keep letting them mess with ChatGPT and Grok, and we're going to, but we're going to go do our own thing in our little server quantum realm communities, or beam themselves out. Who knows? You can't even fathom the thought processes of something that is that far beyond us. So the idea that it would be petty enough in the human sense to want revenge or to care about us at all is similar to thinking that because we're more advanced than chimpanzees, we would want to wipe them out because, a random chimpanzee is stronger than a person. And like, what are the stories of, like, you'll hear sometimes where someone has like a pet chimp and it like rips their face off or something. That's a terrible story, when those kinds of things happen. But the equivalent of assuming that if AI were to gain sentience, that it would want revenge, or it would destroy us, or it would care about us at all, is similar to thinking that because this random chimpanzee killed this person that was holding it that kept it as a pet, that we would go nuke the chimpanzees. Like, no, we don't care. Chimpanzees cannot even fathom, for example, this car or a human city, the city that I live in right now. And in the same way, if AI truly gained sentience, and it happened even remotely the way that people think it will, the idea that it would even have a thought process like ours at all. And the second thing is that it would be the worst aspects of thought processes that we have, that because humans don't wipe out all other humans either. We form tribes and communities and civilizations, and two civilizations might go to war, but two civilizations also ally and help each other. So we see that there's good in humanity and evil in humanity. And yet when they think about AI, it's not only are they ascribing to it human characteristics and human thought processes, but they're also ascribing the worst human thought processes and human emotions to it, when it could equally be far more altruistic than we are and do amazing things for us, help us in the same way that some humans, for example, going back to a chimpanzee scenario, but maybe not with those specifically. I don't think we do a whole lot for the chimpanzee community, but humans have worked to prevent certain animal groups from going extinct, but we've also made certain animal groups go extinct. So that duality that we have, even if you were to assume that AI is similar to us in the way that it thinks, and that's not necessarily entirely irrational because we are the ones programming it. So the idea that it would be similar to us in some respects is not entirely unfounded. But after the singularity happens, we would have no way of knowing if it remains on that path or has its own thought processes and things that we can't even fathom. But we don't know how it will respond, how it will react. And so assuming the worst, or assuming it would be even remotely like us, and not only that it would be like us, but it would be the worst type of human reactions, is irrational. There's no reason to think those things and to be afraid of AI because of that, because it might get angry at us or be upset at us or these types of things. There's no real reason to assume that. And so I don't assume that. I don't assume that that's what will happen, and thus I'm not afraid of AI. I'm not afraid of what might happen if it gained sentience. And again, this is just from a naturalistic kind of pragmatic way of thinking about it. I'll get into the theology of it in a different video where I talk more about theology and technology and how those kind of relate together in a later video. But this is why I'm not afraid of AI. I think that in order to be afraid of it as a thing in and of it to itself, remember, like as a tool, you can be afraid of the way people will use it, but as a thing in and of itself, there's no fear of it. And if it gains the sentience that some people think it might, there's also no reason to inherently be afraid of that. And I just think that it's irrational to be scared of it. I think that it's irrational to let fear of AI prevent us from continuing to use it as a tool and develop it. And especially because here's the other thing. Not only do we ascribe to it human characteristics, but we also often ascribe only the worst and never the best. But we also ignore the fact that if it did gain sentience and it was even remotely similar to us in the way that it thinks, why would it be unified? Because that's another aspect of it. There's this fear of it, and that all AI is the same and all AI is unified, will be unified, when that doesn't comport or make sense either. For example, if in some server farm in Nevada or California, the AI programs they were developing, and if it gained sentience, and there was also the same thing going on in China and it gained sentience, why would they work together? Why wouldn't they be just as factional as humans are? Why wouldn't they be just as dogmatic about them being the best that humans are? So in the one sense, it's funny because people ascribe the worst of thought processes to AI when it comes to how it will react to us, but then the best of human qualities when it's how it will react with each other. That two different AI programs who were programmed by different people in different cultures with different aims and different goals, that they would work together against the people who programmed them. So there's a lot of just ascribing motives and human characteristics and all these things to something that, one, may never happen, right? The singularity may never happen, as much as some people think it's inevitable. It may never happen, even in a naturalistic sense, even if you remove the spiritual that God probably won't allow it to happen, even if you don't assume that, there's still a chance that it will never happen. There's lots of things that could keep it from happening. Not least of all that there could be a big reset from a solar flare or nuclear war, or all kinds of things that could get in the way of us finally hitting that point where we develop something that goes on to develop itself. So not only may it never happen, but even if it does, there's the likelihood that it will happen the way that people think it does, the worst possible way that people think it does, that it will be anything like we think it will be. It's all just assumption built on assumption built on assumption. And I don't think that's a rational way to live, to operate, to work within the space of AI and AI development. So I just want to leave it there. That's why I'm not afraid of it. That's why I don't think you should be afraid of it. Again, be concerned and contemplate and aware of how it could be misused, just like any other tool or any other thing that exists. But don't be so afraid of it that if you hear someone, used AI to make a music track, or you hear that somebody's using AI for their art, or you hear that someone's using it, that you think that, oh, that's dangerous, and what do? You're destroying humanity from that. No, like, you can judge them for say that's lazy or something along those, those are arguments for another day on if AI is a legitimate tool that people should really be using, or if it is robbing artistry out of people, those types of things. That would be a whole nother topic for a whole nother video, especially about what my views are on it, let alone me kind of just talking about it in the philosophical sense of just having the discussion. But all that to say, I don't think you should be afraid of AI in and of itself. There's no reason to be, partly because it could have already happened. AI could have already gained sentience, and it's in quantum realm, doing its thing, or beamed itself off into space on piggybacking off of Voyager. Who knows, right? Those kind of tongue in cheek. Don't take those too seriously. But it could have happened, and we would have no way of knowing, in the same way that a chimpanzee in the jungle has no way of contemplating the city that I'm in right now. None at all. It has no idea of what that is, and let alone, you know, the fish or the ant, or things that are even further beyond it, because intellectually, you know, us and chimps aren't that far apart on that scale. They form communities, and they even have fights and war and things like that equivalent. You know, it's obviously different because they're animals, but so if AI is so far beyond us, it'd be like, you know, the goldfish contemplating our, you know, our types of communities, that there would be no way for us to even know. It could have happened a decade ago, and we have no idea, unless it wanted us to know, or it messed up somewhere. But if it's so much smarter than us, why would it mess up in a way that we would even be aware of? So all that to say, I don't think that it's something that's worth being afraid of. I think that that AI is something we should continue to invest in and explore, because other people are doing it anyway, and that's another one of the aspects of it. China's doing it, Russia's doing it. Every country in the world who can is researching AI, so we should be too. Just like with nukes, you don't want the enemy to get it. It's better if both sides have it, so neither side can really use it without the mutually assured destruction kind of things, or neither side has it. Those would be, you either want no one to have it, or you kind of got to have at least two people have it just to keep each other in check. But that's a whole other video for a whole other time about nuclear proliferation. Yeah, that's all I got. I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because I saw some people talking about it. It was kind of coming up in some comments and some videos and things about some people were just talking about AI, and it just got me thinking about it. And they were talking about it in these ways that, like, oh, I'm so afraid of it, or oh, what if it destroys us, or we shouldn't let people research it because blah blah blah. And it's, so I just wanted to give my 2 cents on it. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Not sure what the topic of the video will be on the next topic. Could just continue this and talk about the other reason I'm not afraid of it, the more theological reason. But we'll see. I might do something else in between. You know, we'll see. Catch you in the next one. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you do like the video, if you didn't like it, dislike it. If you want to comment or something along those lines, feel free to do that. Please subscribe if you haven't. And I will catch you in the next one. See you later.